Padme, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, ISKCON Sadhacharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Shri Nitai Mayapur Chandra ki jai, Sankirtan Yajna ki jai, Govardhanande, all glories to their Sama devotees, all glories to their Sama devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, everyone. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Oh, this is my telephone. Tell me, devotees, tell me one thing. Did I ever here in Cape Town, did I ever do a class, a class or a seminar, or just a class even, on Srila Prabhupada?
We were meant to do last year.
Oh, was that?
But then the Ramakanda Swami changed the plan. Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, I see. Okay. That's interesting. Well, what do you think? What do you think?
I think you should do what's best for us, Maharaj.
You think?
I think you should just do what's best for us.
Oh, Krishna. Different things are best for different people. Because it could be quite expensive. But let's just say a few words at least about Srila Prabhupada. Because after all, this is meant to be a session, you could say about the spiritual master and the disciple, and it's such an important subject. And actually it's such a wonderful subject. It's a really amazing subject. Some of these stories you may be familiar with because, I've told them here and there and in different places, and if you sort of sometimes follow some of the classes that I've been giving while I've been traveling, then you would have heard, because I have in different places, I've done in-depth seminars on Srila Prabhupada. On Srila Prabhupada, meaning like basically presenting pastimes of Prabhupada, and there are always lessons that can be learned from those pastimes, from Prabhupada's example, often. Yes. So, do you remember me telling any of the stories of Tribhuvannath Prabhu regarding Prabhupada?
Not here.
Not here. Elsewhere.
You might have told me some of it.
Oh, I told you. Gee whiz. Okay. Well, I was looking at Sri Sri Nitai Mayapur Chandra, and they're very small, of course, but at the same time they're very beautiful, very sweet. And it reminded me of a story about Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada, this was like, I think 1972, So I had not yet moved into the temple or become a devotee, you might say. And we didn't have Bhaktivedanta Manor, and all we had, at least in London, was this small temple right in central London, pretty much right in central London, but pretty small. The temple room was probably, it was longer and narrower than this, but it was probably about the same size as this. And we had about 60 devotees or so. So we were all jam-packed in there. And Srila Prabhupada was there one time. And when Prabhupada gave class, his Vyasasana was right up by the altar. Right up by the altar. If you can imagine, this is the altar area. But Prabhupada was on that side. And, it was almost like he could practically lean out and touch the deities, Radharani and Ishvara. Yeah. So I was told, though, about this happening, really very wonderful, actually. Prabhupada, during the class, or maybe at the end of the class, he looked over at the deities, Radharani and Ishvara, and he became silent. And when Prabhupada would become silent, there was always something very deep happening, very deep within himself. So he turned around to the devotees and, like with tears in his eyes, Srila Prabhupada said, I have captured Krishna and I'm holding him here for you. Please come and take him. So that's the thing, particularly with Prabhupada, particularly with Srila Prabhupada, and it's like, that's the duty, you could say, the main duty, or one of the main duties of someone who's a spiritual master, or just someone who's a senior devotee, that they have, due to their years in Krishna consciousness, they have certain amount, even a lot of realization about Krishna and relationship with Krishna. And if we were in Stellenbosch on Friday evening, we talked about being tuned in to Krishna, to Krishna's presence. Yeah, so for the devotees like that, particularly someone like Srila Prabhupada, he can actually give us Krishna means in the sense of helping us to appreciate Krishna more and realize the reality of Krishna in our lives more. And therefore Prabhupada said that I've captured Krishna. I'm holding him here for you. Now you please come and take him. If we just take those realizations and understandings coming from great, great lover of Krishna like Srila Prabhupada, then our Krishna consciousness will be so much enriched, like in a revolutionary way, actually. In a revolutionary way, we can go just in a matter of minutes even sometimes, or short period of time, our relationship with Krishna can become deepened you could almost say unexpectedly, in unexpected ways we didn't think was going to happen. So that's, yes, I really appreciate that. I have captured Krishna. I'm holding him here for you. Now you please come and take him. That's pretty heavy, isn't it? You know, one time, these are a few stories from Tribhuvanath Prabhu, who passed away, I don't know what, 10 or 15 years ago, quite some time ago. He was a really nice devotee, really nice. He was Irish, but he was in the London Temple and connected with the London Temple. And he was very dear to Srila Prabhupada. And he said that he was with Prabhupada. And sometimes after the morning class, which was recorded, Prabhupada would ask for the recording, and the devotee would bring the recording, and Prabhupada would play the recording of himself giving class. And one time, another devotee who was in the room with Prabhupada and Tribhuvanath Prabhu, it would take boldness or even stupidity to ask this question. He asked Prabhupada, why are you listening to your own class? Can you imagine? Krishna. And Prabhupada said, because I did not give the class. Yeah. It was Krishna. Yes. So therefore I like to listen to my classes. I like reading my books because it's not me. People think it's me and my name is there, but it's Krishna. Here's a bit of a lighter one, which some of you may have heard of because it is one of my favorites. Prabhupada staying in that central London temple, and it's very close to just everything in the centre, including Buckingham Palace and the government buildings and all that, Trafalgar Square, if you know London at all. And they were driving to a program. They're driving to a program, and they drove right past Buckingham Palace. Have you been to Buckingham Palace? Have you been? There's this long avenue leading up, like a big driveway, but it's all public now, leading up to the front door of Buckingham Palace. And there was one other devotee in the car. He said, Srila Prabhupada, you know what's happened? One of the guards, you know, the fellows with the big black hats, you know, you see that? He's become a devotee. Yes. He's a very important man. He's guarding Buckingham Palace. And he's become a devotee. So it's very good. It's wonderful. He's become a devotee, important man. And Srila Prabhupada, he had a way of sort of being sarcastic, but in a pleasant way. And Srila Prabhupada, so this devotee saying, yeah, important man, one of the guards of Buckingham Palace. And Prabhupada said, and what about the Queen? Classic Prabhupada. Just classic Prabhupada. It's amazing. But even having said that, the Queen had quite, I mean, not so much, but quite a bit actually, of association with devotees. Yeah. She went to, in Harrow, Wembley Harrow, she went to the Avanti school. Yeah. And she was there for the whole evening arti. Yeah, with all the children and the deities. So she was there for like at least 20 minutes with all these things going on and the deities there. And she met, every year religious leaders are invited to Buckingham Palace. And the, fairly recently late, what was his name? The temple president. What was his name? No, not Shutikirti. No. Anyway, whatever his name was. I knew him very well, but I can't remember his name. Began with S. But anyway, he would be invited every year. And the Queen would come and shake his hand. And he would say, Hare Krishna this, Hare Krishna that. Within the space of he'd have 20 seconds. He could say what he liked. Shruti Dharma, that's right, Shruti Dharma. Yeah. Unfortunately got cancer of the brain and passed away. I forget how long ago, but not very long ago. So yeah, he would always at least say Hare Krishna a couple of times. And she would often respond, Hare Krishna. Yeah. Really nice. And just about, well, here's one, I don't know if you'll appreciate this. This is sort of X-rated. Are you ready? Are you ready? X-rated from Srila Prabhupada. Tribhupada said that he asked Prabhupada, what does it mean? What does it mean when a devotee gets sick in terms of his or her relationship with Krishna? What does it mean? Because, you get sick and it's unpleasant. It can be quite nasty. So what does it mean? And Srila Prabhupada said, what it means is Krishna is giving him or her a love bite. That's what Prabhupada said. Prabhupada's such a character. And just one point about Tribhupada. He was younger than me. Maybe a year to two, maybe a year younger. He joined when he was 18. Joined the temple in London. And just a few weeks later, every single one of the devotees living in the temple decided they're all going to India for Gaurpurnima, for the festival, to be with Srila Prabhupada. And he asked the temple president, Tribhupada, he's 18 years old, he's been a devotee, a month or two. So, he's quite a senior devotee. And he asked the temple president, well, who's going to be the president? And the president said, you are. Okay, so off went all the devotees. He was alone in the temple. And who should phone up but BBC television? We want to interview, like television interview. We want to interview the president. Oh, okay, that's me. So And they interviewed him, 18 years old, the head of the Hare Krishna movement in the UK. And he was from Ireland, like Central Ireland. And his parents, he hadn't told his parents he would become a devotee. And the parents happened to be watching. It's there's our son.
He's the president.
He's the head of Hare Krishna in the UK. That's just by the way. But there's one really nice story. I mean, well, that was sort of by the way, that one. One very nice story about Trivikram Maharaj and his relationship with Prabhupada. I mean, we can learn from these things if we try to tune in. Tuning in is a bit of science, actually. So Trivikram Maharaj, he's not been here, but he is a really nice devotee and one of the old disciples of Prabhupada from sometime in the 60s. So he's in Vrindavan, Prabhupada's in Vrindavan. Prabhupada's masseur, because Prabhupada would take massage twice a day for like at least half an hour each time. His masseur was not well. And so Prabhupada asked Trivikram Maharaj, do you know how to do a massage? And Trivikram Maharaj had never done a massage before, but he said, I think I can learn. So he started massaging Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was quite appreciative. At the end of the massage, Srila Prabhupada said, I am going to America in 1 week. And Trivikram Maharaj said, oh, I will have to come with you and massage you. And Prabhupada said, no, Upendra is there, he knows massage. So there's 1 week to go. And every day Trivikram Maharaj is massaging Prabhupada twice a day for half an hour each day. And Prabhupada and Maharaj, Trivikram Maharaj, at some point each day during the massage, he will say, Srila Prabhupada, I really think I should come to America with you. I have an American passport. And you need someone, it's very important, you need someone to do your massage. And Prabhupada, each time he said, no, it's all right, Upendra is there. He knows massage. So every day, for the whole week that happened. Finally, the last day, Trivikram Maharaj decided he's going to really try. So he said, Srila Prabhupada, I really feel I have to come with you for this service. It's a very important service, to do your massage. And Prabhupada said, no, Upendra is there. He can do the massage. And Trivikram Maharaj, he's stumped, doesn't know what to say. But then he said, Srila Prabhupada, is Upendra a nice boy? And Prabhupada said, yes, he's a very nice boy, but not as nice as you. And then Trivikram Maharaj understood that Prabhupada loved him. It was like, sort of, what would you say, just a glance into the relationship his own relationship with Srila Prabhupada. It's very important, very important. Yes. Now here's an interesting one. One devotee named Jai Gopal. He was a householder in, I think, Los Angeles, somewhere in America. Living in the temple, married young man with a wife. I don't know children, but they're married. But then somehow he was killed in a road accident. And his wife was very distraught. And she had a darshan with Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada tried to sort of pacify her, as much as it might be possible under the circumstances. Then in the course of their little, not long, just short back and forth together, Srila Prabhupada said that Prabhupada assured her that Jai Gopal has gone back to Godhead and you will be together with him later, after some time, which was very encouraging for her. When she walked out, one devotee didn't say to her, but another one of the devotees who'd been in the room, that, Prabhupada, he just said that to encourage her, that's all. But it couldn't be like that because he wasn't, some sort of great devotee. But then later, they found out that Srila Prabhupada, after that meeting, said that actually Jai Gopal was not ready to go back to Godhead. But Krishna made an exception and took him back anyway. Yeah. Yes. Here's an interesting one. One devotee, disciple of Prabhupada, nice devotee, he was associating with one of Prabhupada's godbrothers. Prabhupada's godbrothers, you may or may not know, they were sort of a mixed group. A very small number, like a couple of them, were actually very nice. And they really appreciated Prabhupada. But the rest, they were not very nice. And their followers sort of remained like that, not appreciating Prabhupada, not taking him seriously. So, but this one devotee was associating with one of those godbrothers and taking some instruction from him. Then he was wondering, am I doing the right thing by associating with this devotee? Or, what, should I stop? One night he had a dream, and in the dream he died. And he came to the entranceway to Goloka Vrindavan. And there at the entrance was a guard. And the guard said, "Who are you?" And the devotee said, I won't mention the actual name, but I am, let's say, Krishna Das. I am Krishna Das. And the guard said, there are so many Krishna Dasas. Which one are you? And in his dream, the devotee said, I am the Krishna Das who is a disciple of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And the guard said, "Oh, you're a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. Yes, please come in. Come straight in." And then he understood he should keep focused on Srila Prabhupada and not get sidetracked. You know, by sometimes you get these people kind of colourful people, and simple people can be attracted by them and get distracted from Prabhupada and Krishna consciousness as given by Prabhupada. Here is one which you're likely to have heard of. Try and think as we're saying these things, try and think of some sort of application relevance to yourself, because there will be. I mean, maybe every time, but certainly in some. So, the Prabhupada's in America, and one devotee suddenly arrived from Los Angeles. And he said, you know, I was instructed by the authorities, I must immediately come and see you, Prabhupada, and show you some photos from our Sunday program just a couple of days ago. So he pulled out all these, you know, like larger size photos. Said, Srila Prabhupada, last Sunday, a few days ago, a group of Indian classical dancers came to the temple and they put on a show during the Sunday program. And that everyone loved it. Everyone thought it was just wonderful. And he's showing Prabhupada a photo, another photo, another photo. Prabhupada said, the dancers have their backs to the deities. And the devotee said, sort of like, yeah, well, you know, we discussed it, but we felt it was best to do it like that, because you know, people could see those things. And Prabhupada said again, but the dancers have their backs to the deities. And the devotee understood it was an issue for Prabhupada. He really didn't appreciate it. So the devotee said, Prabhupada said, in Nectar of Devotion, Srila Rupa Goswami says, you must not turn your back to the deities, but these dancers have their backs to the deities. And the devotee understood, you know, Prabhupada was not happy. He said, well, Srila Prabhupada, we thought about it, and we asked the GBC, Jayatirtha, if it was all right to do it that way. And Jayatirtha said it was all right. And Prabhupada said, oh, Srila Rupa Goswami, he says, you must not turn your back to the deities, but Jayatirtha says it's all right. And Prabhupada said, Jayatirtha has become big authority in Krishna consciousness. And then Prabhupada said, that is the problem in ISKCON. Too many big authorities. In other words, we shouldn't be big authorities or even little authorities for that matter. But we should be very humble little servants. And then, you know, we will not make like classic blunders. We may make a few little blunders here and there, but nothing like, you know, the sort of thing where Prabhupada makes it clear that you're just off the mark, just really off the mark. Another time, you see, in the earlier days when Prabhupada travelled, he travelled with Radhakrishna deities, small, bigger than Nitai Mayapur Chandra, but you know, like sort of this size, still pretty small. And they would travel in a you know, sort of not a briefcase, but like, what would you say? One of these jewelry cases or makeup, you know, cases that ladies use more. They would travel in. So they were going in America from somewhere to another place, but in between they stopped in another place for a couple of hours to have lunch, something like that. Then they went on to the destination. And the devotee who was acting as the pujari for those deities, he thought, well, you know, we're only here for a couple of hours. I'll just leave the deities in their little case. No, that's all right. But then Prabhupada became angry and asked the devotee, why? Why have you not taken the deities out? And the devotee said, I didn't think it was so, intelligent. There's not so much time. But then Prabhupada said, you're unpacked. You're very comfortable. What about the deities? Prabhupada really put the deities in first place. And even you see in India, you sometimes see, there's some little house, like 2 rooms or 1 room, maybe, or a couple of rooms. And in the house, there is 1 light bulb in the whole house. And it is above the deity. Yeah. Prabhupada commented on that sort of thing. Prabhupada, devotee writes, we can all have a relationship with Prabhupada. One devotee asked Prabhupada, is the spiritual master present in the heart of the disciple? And Srila Prabhupada replied, yes, if you let me enter. And Prabhupada writes in the purport of Bhagavatam 4:28-47, the disciple and spiritual master are never separated, because the spiritual master always keeps company with the disciple. That is not the other way around. The spiritual master always keeps company with the disciple as long as the disciple follows strictly the instructions of the spiritual master. Then same mood, but different situation. If you think of me and work for me, then I am in your heart. If you love somebody, he's in your heart. It is a common thing, everyone understands it. If I love somebody, he's also in my heart. Yes. And just by the way, when, Ram Navami is coming up, a couple of days, and if you know the story a bit, you'd know that towards the end, when Ram and Ravan are confronting each other, Ram fired arrow after arrow, and each arrow knocked off a head of Ravana. He had 10. And each arrow, one after the other. And these heads are just getting knocked off, but then another head would appear. So, Ram did not fire an arrow at the heart of Ravana until the end. Right at the end, Lord Ram took the Brahmastra, the personal weapon of Lord Brahma, and then instead of firing at the heads, he fired at his heart, and it killed Ravana. But Lord Ram had not fired at his heart till then, because Ravana was thinking of Sita in his heart. And when you think of someone, particularly special transcendental person, they're there, they're present. So Sita was there in the heart of Ravana. Therefore Lord Ram didn't want to harm Sita. So, but eventually Ravana became so angry and just, disturbed with the whole situation, he forgot Sita momentarily. And then Lord Ram suddenly fired at his heart. And that was the end of Ravana. Here's another one, which you probably heard before because I've told it many times. One girl, young girl, maybe 20-ish or something, moved into the temple in Los Angeles. Prabhupada was staying there. There was a period of time, I think in 74 or so, Prabhupada stayed for weeks in Los Angeles, supervising whatever, BBT work. So this girl moved in, and the devotees asked her, what do you do? Do you have any skills or anything? And she said, yeah, I'm an artist. And I'd really like to paint for Prabhupada's books. And so the devotee said, okay, do a painting of Krishna and we'll show it to Prabhupada. Let's see how he reacts. So she did a painting of Krishna looking really upset, just really distressed. And the devotees, anyway, they took her to Prabhupada. And Prabhupada looked at this painting. And as he's looking, he's going like this. And it's not just the classic Indian mudra. It's more like no, that sort of movement of the head. And he looked at it for some seconds, or 10 or 15 seconds, and said, what is this painting? And the girl said, Srila Prabhupada, this is Krishna feeling separation from Radharani. And Prabhupada said, this is not what Krishna looks like when he's feeling separation from Radharani. Separation is the highest ecstasy. You have made Krishna look like some young boy who's lost his girlfriend. So we cannot use this painting. Painting back. We can't use this painting. And this poor little girl got really upset on the spot and started crying. And crying. And crying. And after that, crying. And crying. And the devotees, there are two devotees, a brahmachari and a sannyasi there from the BBT. And they're trying to say to her, okay, we should go out now. But they couldn't touch her. They didn't want to touch her. So she's there crying, Prabhupada's sitting there waiting. After like a minute, Prabhupada says, wait, show me that picture again. So she hands Prabhupada the picture. Now Prabhupada's looking at the picture and he's going like this. And Srila Prabhupada said, yes, we can use this picture. We will call this picture, Krishna has a headache. So that's, Prabhupada being considerate, above and beyond the call of duty. One devotee, I don't think you all have heard this. Prabhupada, one devotee, disciple came to Prabhupada and said, Srila Prabhupada, I would like to apologize for being so fallen, so wretched. I never seem to be able to do anything right. I try to give people some advice, but it's no use. Because even when I say something I think is right, they say I'm wrong. So I just want you to please forgive me because I'm so confused. Prabhupada replied, they criticized Lord Krishna and Lord Chaitanya. And the devotee just didn't know what to make of that. He said, Prabhupada, I'm not trying to criticize Krishna or Lord Chaitanya. I'm just trying to apologize for being so fallen, that I'm not better than I am. So Prabhupada said, they criticized Lord Chaitanya and Krishna. Even when Krishna was here, they didn't accept him. Only a few hundred people accepted that he was God. Everyone else was criticizing. And when Lord Chaitanya was here, they even threw a pot at Lord Nityananda. They didn't like to accept him. So what to speak of you and me? And the devotees just completely amazed to hear all this. And then he said, so, Srila Prabhupada, what is to be done? What should I do? Should I just go on trying? And Prabhupada said, yes, just go on trying. That's deep. It's really amazing. Here's another one. Here's one which you may or may not have heard. There was a devotee, Jayananda. You've heard of Jayananda? You heard of Jayananda? You must have. Everyone's heard of Jayananda? Yes. Heard of Jayananda? You'll hear about him now. So Jayananda was a disciple of Prabhupada, a bit older. He moved into the temple when he was about 30, he was almost like a senior citizen in those days. I tell you, when I moved into the temple, the oldest person by birth was like 25, 26, senior devotees. And they had been devotees for like Tribhuvana, 2 years, 3 years. So anyway, Jayananda, he was very special devotee, very dedicated. He had a university degree which Prabhupada took him seriously, but he was very humble and just very dedicated to serving Prabhupada in any way. So Prabhupada came to somewhere in America, and when Prabhupada would move around like that, devotees would gather from surrounding areas, and there'd be quite a few devotees there. One day, and Tamal Krishna Maharaj was there, who was, a very special disciple of Prabhupada, also in a different way. And you could say. and it was like very sharp. And Jayananda Prabhu was like very easygoing and flexible. So after Mangal Arati, the second initiated devotee sat down to chant Gayatri. Jayananda finished in 30 seconds. Any of you who chant Gayatri would know. It takes about 5 minutes. He finished in 30 seconds. And then he went off. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj finished his Gayatri, then asked one of the other devotees, "Where's Jayananda?" And the devotee said, "He's with Prabhupada." And Tamal Krishna Maharaj started to, and he's going to just walk in. And the devotee stopped him and said, "No." Prabhupada said, "No one must come in. You must wait." So he waited, and Jayananda came out a few minutes later. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj asked him, "What were you doing with Prabhupada?" And Jayananda said, "Prabhupada was giving me Gayatri." And Tamal Krishna Maharaj had received second initiation in Gayatri at the same time as Jayananda, some years before. So he said, Tamal Krishna Maharaj said, "What do you mean? Prabhupada gave you Gayatri. You received Gayatri with me a few years ago." And Jayananda said, "Yeah, you know, I mean, it's such a shame I keep forgetting it. So every 6 months I go back to Prabhupada and he gives me Gayatri again." And Tamal Krishna Maharaj just grabbed him and took him into Prabhupada's room and said, "Srila Prabhupada, this Jayananda, he's not a Brahmin. He's not a Brahmin. You know, he forgets Gayatri, and you have to give him Gayatri again every 6 months. This is no good. He's no good. He's not a Brahmin." Really strong criticism. And Srila Prabhupada said, Jayananda is so sincere. He can chant anything, and Krishna will accept it. Yeah, and another related one. There was one devotee who wrote a letter to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was being massaged, and the secretary was reading the letters, and then Prabhupada would make some comments and some reply would go out. So the secretary read this one letter. The devotee said in the letter that, "Prabhupada, I'm having such a hard time. I'm having a very hard time. I carry on following the principles, chanting my rounds for some weeks, then I smoke. I smoke a cigarette. And then for a few weeks I smoke cigarettes, but then I stop somehow, I pull myself together. And then I follow everything for some weeks, but then something goes wrong, I smoke a cigarette again, and then I'm smoking cigarettes for some weeks. And it just goes on and on like this." He's explaining to Prabhupada. And the devotee who told us this, maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago, he said he was sitting there listening to this, and in his mind, the devotee is thinking, what sort of nonsense is this? Smoking. He's not really a devotee. He's just, a mixed up character. He's no good. Then the letter finished, and Prabhupada's sitting there, very like meditative mood. And Srila Prabhupada spoke. And Prabhupada said, "What a great song. He's having so much difficulty in Krishna consciousness, but he's keeping on trying. He's keeping on trying. What a sincere soul. And that devotee who had been thinking, what a nonsense, he's not really a devotee. What a shock. So we can learn from these things. There's a lot to learn, actually, and we can learn from these things. I will close now. Is that okay?
That's not much.
Is that okay?
Could we take some questions?
Oh, okay. But I'll close, with one more, which I'm sure you've all heard. Not all, but I think quite a number. Prabhupada tells a joke. Prabhupada tells a joke. Prabhupada said that one night, in one temple there was one devotee. He liked prasadam so much. And one night they had a big feast, just big feast. And last thing, late at night, the devotee had one very nice samosa, big and golden brown and juicy and just very nice. And he ate the samosa and that was it. He just slept. The next morning he got up and suddenly, had to run to the toilet. He ran to the toilet and just passed stool and was just like, wow. Then he turned around and looked at the stool in the toilet. And he said, look at you. You're horrible. Look at you, you're just horrible. And you smell bad and you're terrible. And the stool replied, don't say that about me. Don't say that about me. And the stool said, last night I was that samosa. After just one night of association with you. That's a joke from Prabhupada. Okay, a question or two or one or whatever. Or comment? Yes, Prabhupada.
I have a question, Maharaj. So you said like sometimes when Krishna gives special mercy, he takes everything away from the devotee. So that's like Krishna giving special mercy. Does that sometimes apply to like service, where Krishna might take away your service or maybe give you too much service in order for your advancement?
Yeah, whatever Krishna does is for our advancement. Sometimes to our vision it appears sort of negative, and other times it appears positive. One thing Prabhupada said was, if you ever want to upset a devotee, hurt a devotee, if you ever want to hurt a devotee, take their service away. Because the service is the devotee's love. But anyway, the thing is that Krishna may take away service. Let's say, first of all, Krishna takes away service. And so now you don't have the service. And maybe you were very happy doing the service, but now you don't have the service. So then what? You see, then what is that? Hare Krishna, welcome. Very well. there are different things you can do under those circumstances. It depends, it really depends. It may be appropriate, like a suitable response, to just say, well, okay, that's what Krishna wants. And then you may find that very shortly afterwards, something else, which it may even be better as service, is given to you. But if that doesn't happen, or even if it's just happened now, you just somehow apparently lost the service. Sometimes Krishna wants to see, what do you want? Do you want to do the service? Or do you want to just sort of relax? What do you want? And, sometimes, and even oftentimes, Krishna wants to see what you want to do for him, rather than, in a kind of passive way, you just wait for service to be given to you, or taken and replaced, or whatever. So, if a service is important to you, and you feel it's nice and it's beneficial, there's nothing wrong, in principle, with going to whoever the people who are responsible are, and saying, look, you've taken this service away, but actually, I was really appreciating it, and I feel it was really good for me. So could I please have the service back? Yeah, there's nothing wrong with doing that. And they may, because you never know, they may have some other idea for you, some other type of service for you to do. It's very unusual that devotees' service is just taken away and they're just left sort of nowhere. More often than not, a devotee's service may be changed because there's a feeling that there's some necessity on the other side. But even so, if, even in a situation like that where you're given another service, you can always go and just, in a nice way, in a humble way, just say that this service was so nice. Could I please continue with it? And many times they'll agree. Many times they'll agree. Or, if they feel that the other service is really more important, then they may say, well, no, we really need you to do the other service. And the thing is, even though you've got no experience with the other service, so you don't know how it's going to be, whether you're going to get into it or not, or how it's going to work. But the thing is, if a service is authorized, then we should try and do it. And what we'll experience many times is that even though this new service is kind of like something foreign to us, it may even take some time to get into it at all. But actually, if we do really try to get into it, then we'll find in the end that actually it was better for me that I took up that service. You follow the idea? Yeah. Krishna is anything other than boring. A boring person. Krishna's full of all sorts of little moves and different things in our lives. But ultimately it's all for our benefit. And then what was the other situation?
Well, he gives too much service.
Oh, it gives you too much.
It's overwhelming.
Yes. Well, yeah, if you get into a situation like that, first of all, you should try. Because there's a saying that whatever service you're given by Krishna, he also gives you the intelligence or the ability to carry it out. And it's a fact that many times we're given a service, or sometimes we're given a service, and it seems like, how am I going to do this? But if you really try, then you find you can do it. Yeah. And in doing that, Krishna kind of reveals to you that you can do more than you're thinking you can do. You're limiting yourself. But otherwise, well, let me tell you a funny little story of my own experience. Back more than 10 years ago, probably 15 years ago, it was suggested that I could become chairman of the GBC. And I thought, no, what on earth is this? But some devotees felt I could and I should. So there were a couple of other devotees who were also suggested. And so a vote was taken. And we were sent out of the room while they did the vote. And the whole, it took like 15 minutes or something. And we're waiting outside. And I'm sitting there thinking, Krishna, you can't expect me to be chairman of the GBC. I mean, come on, Krishna. And I thought, Krishna, listen, if you really feel you want me to be chairman of the GBC, I'll try my best. But if you really want me to be chairman of the GBC, Krishna, I think you're crazy. So anyway, I ended up being the chairman. And I did it, basically. It's for a year. Then, several years later, like 6 or 7 years or something, I became chairman again, second time. And I sort of got to grips with it better than the first time, but not that good. Then there was the third time, just a few years ago. Third time I became chairman. And I really felt that I could do it. And I think that I did it, fairly well, so to speak, by Krishna's grace. So the thing is, though, if you're trying to do whatever it is, and you find that even though you are trying your best and praying to Krishna, that it's just too much, then you have to go to the authorities and appeal to them that, this is actually too much. And, you have to please, you have to give me some assistance or do something because it's just too much. And, generally the authorities are sort of intelligent enough if devotees come along and they really feel like that to they're intelligent enough to make some adjustments. Sometimes they're not, and they say, well, listen, you just got to do it. And then you just pray to Krishna for mercy. Hare Krishna. Anyone else? Yes.
So, should a devotee who has no inclination for deity worship aspire for second initiation? I've been asked that
Second
question.
initiation.
Yeah, I've been asked that you can speak about some relevance of chanting Gayatri Mantra.
Yeah, it's a question in some devotees' minds. In Prabhupada's time, it was practically, I would say it was 90% like you get first initiation after 6 months to a year, and after another 6 months to a year, you just get second initiation. Whatever you are, whatever you're inclined to or not inclined to, you just get second initiation. And away you go. Now, in some places, they will not, the authorities will not give a recommendation for second initiation if the devotee in question is not willing to do deity worship. They won't do it. But that's not the standard really that Prabhupada applied. Because it's not just deity worship. There's chanting of Gayatri, which is a very important thing and a very beneficial thing. So particularly, I would say the general viewpoint, although not the viewpoint of everyone, but the general viewpoint is that if someone is a sincere devotee and they have Brahminical propensities to some degree, but they are just into some other service, they're doing some other service, then, but if they're like that, they can get second initiation, even if they are not interested in deity worship, because the chanting of Gayatri is another part of the second initiation, and it's extremely beneficial to chant Gayatri. Yeah. So therefore, I don't know how they think here in Cape Town. I don't know.
Follows the national policy, and I think there's currently something in the GBC body around initiation standards as well. That's what I was told.
But you're not telling us anything.
Well, the current standard for second initiation is more around, like you said, the Brahminical qualities, the propensity to study Shastra, and be engaged, yes, in deity service, but be engaged in service. So
Yes.
I think because there's a strong need in most temples for pujaris,
Yeah.
then there is that part that comes in, are willing to serve in the deity department.
Yeah.
But it's also given for devotees who preach, who are strong
Yes.
preachers because of the propensity to study Shastra.
Yeah, right. Because preaching is also Brahminical activity. Yeah, very important Brahminical activity. So, and even not preaching, but just engagement in service and, really taking Krishna consciousness seriously. Such devotees can get second initiation. Yeah. But it's nice, for devotees to do deity worship. It's good for them. It's very good for them, even if they're not really so inclined. But it's good for them to do deity worship, because it's very purifying and, brings one closer to the Lord. It's a very personal type of service, touching the deity like that. So it's good. I know, in one temple elsewhere, not in South Africa, I don't think they ever did it, but they were going to make a legal contract that if you get second initiation, you will do deity worship. If you don't, you'll pay 100,000 rand. The equivalent.
No, giving me same ideas. They can sell books to make the 100,000. Wow.
Gurush, can I just ask, how come it was, when Prabhupada's time, it was okay for devotees to get the Brahman initiation after 6 months to a year, but now the authorities, and I'm not trying to be political in any way, that's the question because of the answer that you gave. How come it's so difficult now?
I don't know if it's so difficult, it's more difficult. And like taking sannyas is much more difficult, much more. It's because, you know, there was such a drop-out rate. Yeah. The devotees would get second initiation, but then they would sort of drop out of Krishna consciousness, not just drop out of doing deity worship or preaching, but they just drop out of the movement. And with sannyas, it was the same thing. Prabhupada was very liberal. There was a devotee here, Pusta Krishna. Prabhupada gave him first and second the same time, and just very shortly afterwards gave him sannyas after he'd been, I think he was like 21 or 22, and he'd been a devotee like 2 or 3 years. Prabhupada gave him sannyas. But, you know, a lot of those devotees were not able to maintain sannyas, really a lot. I mean, way over 50%, like 75, 80% were not able to maintain sannyas. So therefore, you know, what, I don't know, 20 years ago or something along those lines, the standard for sannyas was made much higher. People wouldn't be considered unless they're at least 35. Best 50, but, you know, they could be considered possibly if they're 35, but they have to wait 5 years. And if they're 40, they have to wait 4 years. If they're 45, they have to wait 3 years. If they're 50, 2 years. Because, you know, all this bad experience. But okay. Yeah. Okay, devotees, Hare Krishna. Thank you for the association. And what's the program now? Oh, Krishna. Okay.